If you're always looking for ultra perfection, well, you better stay at home and never leave your house. People go into some of these very restrictive diets and also just become very unhappy because they also just can't enjoy a pastry every now and then with a coffee. They are trying to kill you. And it's like, who's they? That sort of thing. There's this polarization between the wellness world and pharmaceuticals. People don't have the education for just consistently good health. People are vulnerable. If you don't understand how some of this stuff works, then yes, you might fall for the quick fix. And I think what's really important to remember is that what actually keeps us healthy is pretty small, boring habits we do every day. Oh, look, the really healthy, consistent things that we just build into our busy life, they don't have that same draw and clickbait. Okay, you can take your top off in a video if you want, but just be mindful if someone is literally only saying, right, you are now going to look exactly like this, or I look like this, everyone else can look exactly like this. And, I think that also distorts what healthy means, because the way someone looks does not always equal health.
Welcome back, friends. And if you're new here, welcome to Plant Fueled. I'm Callum, Weir, your host. Today, we're kicking off 2025 with an incredible returning guest, Vanessa Sturman. Vanessa first graced this podcast a while back, and her wisdom, energy, and insights left a lasting impression. So much so that I couldn't think of anyone better to join us for the new year, new mindset, and new you episode. Here's the thing, it's 2025. The vibe is fresh, the motivation is high, and the urge to set goals and chase success is stronger than ever. But let's be honest, we all want that quick fix, that overnight success, the magic fix. And it's easy to get sucked into those flashy promises, fad diets, genius marketing, and trends that claim to transform your life in just a snap. But as Vanessa and I discussed, real success, especially when it comes to your health, doesn't happen overnight. It's about compounding small habits over time. It's about choosing sustainable paths instead of shortcuts. And it's about looking beyond the hype to find what really works for you. In this episode, we dive into so much. Why quick fixes rarely lead to long-term health results, the seductive power of marketing and how to see through the noise, the biggest diet fads you've seen in the past and probably this year. Yeah, we're talking keto, cotton wool diets, chlorophyll and water, and so much more. How to rethink your goals and build realistic, sustainable paths forward, and what it really means to take care of yourself, not just for this year, but for life. This conversation is a chance to hit reset, get grounded, and start 2025 on the right foot. Vanessa brings so much insight, and I can't wait for you to hear what we've put together. And before we dive in, let me share a quick story. Someone once told me, your future self is just a series of tiny decisions made over and over again. And the truth is, those decisions are easier to make when we're part of a community. So here's my ask. If this episode resonates with you, share it, give it a like, give it a follow, or even send it to a friend who needs to hear it. Whatever the platform you use allows you to do. Your small action today could ripple into something huge tomorrow. For you and for others. 2025 is here. Let's leave the quick fixes behind and embrace what's real. Let's dive in. Peace and plants. Vanessa, welcome back. It's been a while.
It has. It's so lovely to see you again. I'm so excited about speaking to you again as well.
Aww. So how have you been? I was actually looking through your profile about an hour ago and saw that it's coming up to Christmas, and you've created this giant green avocado board full of figs and other things, and it looks beautiful, looks healthy, looks delicious. What is it? So I created this. Sometimes I create things, and this might sound awful, out of a bit of anger. Some of my best creations have come from that. And I was visiting my parents, and my mum opened the paper, and it was this big article about butter is back, which we know goes against the science, right? And there was this butter board craze, and I was like, what? That's also not healthy. It's not good for our planet. Obviously, like it's there's various issues with dairy. And I was weirdly, I went under a tree in the garden to do my sort of morning meditation, which I get to do at my parents' house. They've got a lovely garden. And I had this idea for an avocado board.
And I thought, how lovely would that be? It can be beautiful. It can be very similar. I think it's great to show people some really basic swaps of, hey, like, instead of always having butter, you could swap it out for peanut butter. Or you could do a peanut butter board. There's another idea. You could swap the butter for nut butter, avocado, that kind of thing. And I just thought this would be lovely, simple, and really fun. And I think it's something really nice for Christmas as well, because yes, I am going to be eating the chocolate and all of that kind of stuff as well. But it doesn't mean, indulgent food doesn't have to mean unhealthy. And that's why I wanted to create it, because it's got so many wonderful things that are great for the gut, lovely flavors. And I think, we can go, right, that was indulgent and that was actually really great for my health.
The fact that a butter board exists actually scares me a bit, I think. Like, you normally see like cheese boards, you normally see like maybe meat boards, but I've never seen a butter board. However, it sounds vile, and I think at the moment there is a rise of people eating butter and various other like products like that, and calling it health. So having actual something that's actually relatively healthy or is healthy, like, as an alternative to just sticking a load of like cold butter chunks down your throat each day is amazing. Because I saw it earlier and I was craving it so much afterwards. So I think I do have to make that as soon as I get to Christmas.
I think I'm going to make it as well. I'm back with my parents for Christmas, so I think we'll enjoy one of those. We've got some avocados ready, and we've got you've got the figs and the walnuts and those Christmassy things. You probably got a jar of olives in the back of your fridge that you intended to use. That this is the time to get those olives out, everyone.
Yeah, the time when you kind of go, when, as you say, go to the back of your fridge and find the things that you brought for one recipe only and never used again.
Yeah,
they're the perfect thing to stick on those boards.
Exactly, it can become a weekly thing.
So 2025 is here. I mean, who am I kidding? This is still 2024, but we're launching this in 2025, and I think it's that time of the year where many of us feel kind of inspired to take control of our health, whether it's focusing on what we eat, aiming to be healthier, or just setting a personal goal to strive and to become better. But often, in a rush to see results, people fall into the trap of fast tracking their health outcomes, and they focus on short-term achievements rather than the bigger picture of long-term health. And as much as we all love to believe there is a quick fix and magic, the reality here is there isn't one. There's no diet, no shortcut, no secret method that's going to transform your health overnight, as much as something promises it is. And if there is something out there, it's certainly unsustainable and possibly even harmful. And I think that's kind of where we're going to bring the topic to today, because 2025 is we're going to see a rise, especially in January, of quick fixes more than any other time of the year, because it's a time when people really want to kind of have that blank slate to try and reinvent themselves again.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think, we can see this pattern at different times of the year. And I think what it really speaks to is that people, I'm big on education, people don't have the education for just consistently good health. And they think that to have good health, that you can never have something unhealthy. So they sort of, they may not yo-yo diet as such, but they may kind of yo-yo health kick in some ways. And, really a lot of people are just doing this constantly throughout the year. But then Christmas and New Year is the big yo-yo that they get. And, even I speak to people who really need my help and they say, please, I'll do it in the new year. And they still don't maybe understand, maybe because of the lack of education around nutrition, that even before Christmas, you can start building in more fruit and veg. There's not a rule that at Christmas you're only going to be eating unhealthy things. You can still eat your Christmas dinner, the chocolates, all of this stuff is coming out in my house as well. There's no limit on that around Christmas. It doesn't mean anything though. It doesn't mean I now have to go on some crazy health kick. And I think that's the problem, is that we don't have enough education on just consistently healthy eating. And so we end up in these positions where we go, right, I've got to almost punish myself. And that's the part I also find really difficult, is how many people are actually enjoying what they end up doing in January. They might end up doing, enjoying bits of it, but I'm going to cut absolutely everything out, demonize every kind of food, overwork myself in the gym to only kind of, set back again in February and feel like a failure. And it's those feelings that I think we really need to help people come away from.
Yeah, I think we, as you mentioned as well, like we often as well underestimate like how resilient our bodies actually are. Because obviously life isn't about perfection, it's about balance. And you know, during the Christmas time, it's gonna be full of indulgences and cravings, and I'm gonna sit down and feast as much as you are and eat myself into a food coma. But that's also not going to be every day, and it's never going to be every day. We all have the moments where we're allowed to indulge, especially when it is with like friends and family. And like at the moment, I'm meeting up with people in London while I'm back, and you know, we're eating out a lot more than I usually would do because you know I haven't seen these people in years, and that's okay even though it's going to be a week or 2 weeks, it doesn't mean I've ruined everything. Or that I'm off track. It's just knowing that 80 to 90% of my diet, most of the year is, you know, fundamentally very healthy. However, there's going to be 2 weeks at this time when it's not going to be the healthiest, but it's the consistency of what you do throughout the rest of the year as well that counts. And like, I think people worry too much that, you know, let's say they start off with something new in January. If they slip up and have a bad meal, that's the whole thing ruined for them. There's no reason to worry anymore, or carry on because you know it's ruined. Which that's not the case. Like our bodies are resilient; they can bounce back very easily. So that one slip up is not gonna do much.
Yeah, it's so true, and I think that is something that is really important to understand. That you know. And scientifically, like just if you eat really healthily, then you have one sweet thing. You're not going to die the next day. And you know the way you see influencers talk about this, sometimes you would think that was happening. Or you know, when people maybe have the language of, oh, you know, I ate really healthily, then ruined it with a bad meal, and like your body didn't suddenly go right, quick, take away all those micronutrients that you ate in that good meal because you now ate a bad meal. I was like, that's actually not what's happening. You've still eaten healthy food. It's completely fine. And, you know, I like to go to that donut shop in London where the donuts are like as big as your head and buy those donuts, especially before my period. And it's absolutely wonderful. I don't feel any guilt. I don't feel like I've ruined the healthy breakfast I've had. I still build in, and you can do this over Christmas. Doesn't stop you having, you know, whatever healthy food that you've kind of had. You don't, you know, not everything needs to be chocolate, pure chocolate for every meal. You can still have some of that consistency. It might change a little bit, but that chocolate is not literally going to give you a disease or kill you. But sometimes the messaging feels like that when we get to these, and this is, you know, I know we're going to talk more about this, but these very, very restrictive diets where, you know, people are really demonizing even just one sugary treat, where it really is not going to hurt you. But the other thing is it might actually make you happy. You know, that's the other thing, is that having that joy around food. And I think people go into some of these very restrictive diets and also just become very unhappy because they also just can't enjoy a pastry every now and then with a coffee.
Yeah, it is very much that restrict, and I've fallen into that trap years ago as well. Of like, you know, I go. It normally would be January, so very on topic. That I would, you know, join a gym, want to get into shape, which means now I have to eat the healthiest way possible. And after like, you know, 2 weeks of that, there may be a craving that I wanted, but I was like, I can't have that, and I'd feel really upset if I went and, you know, went and got it. And the thing was, though, that one little, as I would have called it back then, slip up, which is not a slip up. I would have demonized myself so much and beat myself up about it, when realistically, like, I'm in the very small 1% of people that are actually making those changes as well. So I'm creating habits, like healthy habits, and like then you having something that you wouldn't class as healthy can also be implemented into those healthy habits, because you're not gonna, yeah, as you said, you're not gonna ruin your whole entire body or the process by having, let's say, a croissant.
Yeah, it's not going to be super harmful basically for you. And I think that's the thing, is this idea that things are so harmful, even at really small amount, when actually it really doesn't matter at all. But also I think this is, I came from a binging disorder 20 years ago, a really long time ago, but I would literally be in either starvation or binge. It was very extreme. And it was, at 17, I started learning about evidence-based nutrition, because I was like, this just is not going to work at all. And we do, like you said, building into a healthy lifestyle, we do need to build in the pastries, the things that we love. You know, the advice I usually give people is choose the most unhealthy things you love. You know, if you're not a massive fan of crisps, maybe don't eat a load of crisps, chips if you're in the US. Maybe don't eat a load. Maybe don't eat a load of that. If cake is your thing, right, build that in. That makes complete sense. You know, if that's the thing that's going to make you happy to build in, do that. And then you're also not. You know, the more we tell ourselves we can't have something, the more we're going to crave it. And it's also about what you add in. And that's the thing is, I really think it's a red flag when the focus of a particular diet or whatever it is, and again, I don't like diets, so this, you know, another red flag if it's a diet, is focused all around just cutting something out. This diet is all about no sugar, no this, no ultra processed foods. The biggest thing it should be about is, right, what is the abundance of things we're going to put on our plate that are going to reduce the cravings, that are going to help my body reduce disease, and adding to that plate to really, really help you enjoy your life. If something is built around restriction, I think it's a failure from the start.
And that's very much leads into like the myth of, you know, willpower as like the sole engine to these things. Because like we often approach our goals with the misconception that, you know, it is just pure willpower, and, you know, enough fuel that willpower will create lasting change. But in reality, willpower is very much, you know, like a battery. Like it depletes over time, especially when we're faced with the repeated resistance every time. So by relying solely on willpower, we set ourselves up for like a burnout. So when the inevitable stress does build up, we kind of leave ourselves, the willpower will crumble, and we leave ourselves vulnerable to old habits anyway. So that's when we start going back into, you know, the binge eating, or like the unhealthy, like restrictive eating, is because they were old habits. So us creating a habit that allows us to have the foods we actually do enjoy as well is perfect for not letting, like, you know, the quote unquote willpower crumble.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought up willpower, because this is something I feel so strongly about. And I get people coming to me and you know, talking about their health and what they've tried, and the amount of blame they've put on themselves of, well, I didn't have the willpower. And, you know, our body is so clever. If you deprive it, your body is going to want to eat everything in sight. And it's not because you don't have willpower. And something like willpower and discipline are two very different things. And the way I see discipline, it's actually not super, super strict. But discipline is things like, have I planned at least a few meals for the week? Have I got a few things in the freezer, some things in the fridge? You know, do I make sure I do nip to the shops and stock up on things? You know, those are sort of consistency habits that we need a bit of discipline for, to say, yeah, look, just make sure I go and, you know, I've got my frozen berries in the freezer, or, okay, I'm out for the entire day. If there's some things I could pack in my bag, that's just little bits of discipline that really, really help us. You know, discipline doesn't have to be super strict. Or have I left enough time for a bit of food prep in the evening, and maybe that little bit in the morning to pack something in the bag? That is so different from willpower, because if you're relying completely on willpower, and what people actually do is sometimes almost starve themselves, and then when they eat, guess what? Your body's working, by the way, if your body wants to eat when you've been starving. You know, that's what it's a sign. Actually, well done, your body wants to eat. They blame themselves, and that's how those yo-yo diets really work. And you can end up keep going back maybe to the same diet institution, possibly, by saying, well, look, it worked for a bit. Of course it worked for a bit, because you were cutting calories, you lost weight, then you went and ate everything. It didn't teach you anything sustainable, so you've put it back on. But what I see quite a lot is the blame going on that person's willpower or lack of willpower. And, you know, that is something also that really affects their mental health. And then they, you know, if they think that's the problem, they keep trying to fix that problem. They go, well, I've just got to have more willpower. And actually, it's like, no, you need something more sustainable, more balanced food, more foods that reduce cravings, and to let yourself have that flipping croissant sometimes. And just on the croissant, I have to say one other thing. So I can get really angry looking through Instagram, which I probably shouldn't look anymore. And there's, again, people selling resets and detoxes, and there was someone selling a reset. And someone had put a comment underneath her video saying, I'm on the reset and it's great, and I'm desperate for a croissant, but I'm resisting. And I was like, just eat the croissant. You know, I didn't say that. I left it. I left it. I thought, oh, I won't get involved. But the fact that this person now thinks they are going to ruin this whole reset thing and detox, by the way, another red flag, but this person's going to ruin progress with healthy eating because they're having a croissant is not a sustainable way of being as well, and is a huge amount of fear mongering.
Absolutely, and you see that throughout social media. I'm a sucker for like pressing on and reading the comments. I will never comment myself. However, I love to read them, and they do
to the comments. That's what it's called.
Yeah. I just read them. I'm like, how can we go so wrong? But this is actually people just looking for actually solid advice sometimes, and people aren't giving a solid answer. They're very much like no, or like they. But there's a lot more nuance to it, and like people don't like. Yeah, like there's going to be issues where that the no answer is the right answer for maybe some, but that also depends on that person.
Yeah.
Whereas for the majority, saying no is just going to put somebody off. And I think people forget that everybody's human, everybody's very bio individual, and everybody's going to have such different lifestyle changes that they need to make. So. And I think this is where people fall into the traps of red flags as well, is the fact that, we live in a culture of, instant gratification. So this is where red flags are, they seem like the green flag in January, because you're kind of like, oh, like there's going to be this quick fix. There's going to be this, instant gratification, because we live in a world where like everything apart from health is instant results. Like, Amazon, you can get next day, same day delivery. Like, social media provides, constant validation, and like, but when it comes to fitness or health, there's no quick fix. There's no quick fix at all, and like, but this where these things sell. So let's say someone has like a a detox tea, but you're going to detox your body in January. It's going to get rid of all the toxins or whatever you've done in your life.
Literally, even your toxic relationships. Drink the tea, you'll be fine.
And I think it's that temptation that people have, because they've been upset, or they've been uncomfortable with their body for however long, and instead of trying to change it then and there, which obviously sometimes it does take people a long time to realize and implement those changes. I'm not saying everybody should overnight then try to fix it, but as soon as you're uncomfortable and like you're wanting to change, then we should be developing situational awareness towards that. However, when it gets to December, this is when these big industries do prey on us. They prey on the consumer to be like, hey, I know you want to lose weight, I know you want to build some muscle, I know you want to gain weight, whatever the goal is. And I'd be like, we've got something to sell you. And this is very much where we dive into our biggest red flags of, hopefully not 2025, but the ones we've seen in 2024 and prior. Hopefully it does change in 2025, but I have very low hope.
Same. I think this is the thing that comes through every year, and I've totally messed up my algorithm to just show me red flags now on Instagram, because once you start going down one rabbit hole and like you said, looking at the comments of things, your Instagram thinks you just want to see this kind of stuff. So my Instagram, or my own kind of feed or search or explore page, is probably like for a bit until I go and look at some other things, going to be red flags, which has given reminded me of the insight that I need. But I just wanted to pick up on your point about vulnerability. Is you're completely right. People are vulnerable. If you don't understand how some of this stuff works, then yes, you might fall for the quick fix. And I think what's really important to remember is that what actually keeps us healthy is pretty small, boring habits we do every day. Oh, look, case in point, you've just drunk a bit of water. It's okay. Am I staying hydrated? Am I putting in some movement every day? Am I adding bits of fruit and veg? Like, am I having a handful of nuts a day? Like, am I adding, I've had clients where I do these 1 sessions and we just find small actions that they can do consistently and they get great results. And I don't like saying this term, very quickly. I don't mean as in, oh, you've cured anything, but as in when I say a result, I mean, oh, I'm now more full from that meal. That's the sort of thing by I mean a result. And that can be from adding, they just added some beans and a bit of green veg into the soup that they usually have, that they were trying to be healthy from but didn't get full from. It's a small, pretty boring and pretty cheap move. As in, the beans don't cost very much, bit of greens, but it's not super sexy. It's not, oh, this big grand, throw everything out the cupboard, new me. That's the sexy stuff, or appears sexy, or, this one food's going to change your life. That's all the sexy stuff. And unfortunately, the really healthy, consistent things that we just build into our busy life, they don't have that same draw and clickbait. I don't think I could make quite a fun clickbaity ad on, oh, the consistent changes you do every day. It doesn't have this. I'm not going to get the hits on it. That's still the kind of content I do, but it's not going to have the hits like, that one I told you about, cheat the menopause with this 30-second trick a day. More people are clicking on that, right?
Yeah, and that's very much, it is very much people prey on the sex appeal of things, because as you say, like eating a whole foods plant-based diet, for instance, much like me, does not have the same sex appeal as let's go dry fasting for a week. And the same with, like, I think that goes with any dietary pattern. And like, let's say somebody was to go to like paleo, it doesn't sell in comparison to, let's say, chlorophyll water for weight loss, or whatever you see online. And luckily things are moving forward, and I think people are seeing through the fitness and the fitness industry or the weight loss industry or these. And I think times are changing, but they're still rife. It's still not there, but people are seeing through it. However, there's still such lack of education around nutrition that it does leave us falling prey to the people that actually don't have that knowledge. Because once you have the knowledge implemented, or you've taken the time to kind of learn, it's easier to see through these kind of like these trends that keep appearing. Whereas if you have nothing, then an extreme clean eating, baby food diet sounds appealing.
Yeah, like people want answers, and I think this nuance, because you don't have to follow some strict diet. There are things that are consistent across everyone, by the way. There might be an extreme case where it's not, but everyone needs to build in more fruit, more whole grains, more legumes. That doesn't mean, by the way, you have to be either vegan, vegetarian, or omnivore. We need to eat more plant-based whole foods, but it doesn't mean you have to have a dietary label. And I think that's the problem. It gets divided into these different groups, when we know, actually, from the science, right, if you eat more fruit, there's going to be so many benefits from that, potentially for easier weight management. You've got those micronutrients, you've got fiber to feed your good gut bacteria. That's pretty much universal. And you don't have to eat in the exact same way as me in order to build in fruit. There's going to be different ways that you might do it, but that is a first step everyone can do. But again, it's not sexy unless it's, someone even had like a wand that you put in your water that does something to the water. I can't even remember, but it looks more sexy if there's something like that. When actually you could just, you can just build in fruit. And people even say, but what type of fruit? And I'm like, get a range, get a, variety. But even to that extent, I think people, if they're really struggling, they want to be told some very, very, very exact things. And sometimes that super restrictive knowledge, or super restrictive guidance, is actually not going to help them really long term if they're told, right, these are the exact fruits you're going to eat. No, just eat what fruit is available. Grab whatever the different types of berries are in the freezer. You don't just have to eat blueberries, by the way, because someone's told you blueberries are very healthy, which they are. But you can have that we want to have that variety as well.
Yeah, and I think when people do go on these very restrictive diets, or they fall into one of these trends, it's kind of like, hey, we need to cut this, and this. This then helps people to develop things like eating disorders, because they then fear that this one food is going to cause this issue or this issue, and that's not always the case. So when people are getting scaremongering away from food, this is when we do see extreme eating disorders, because they're like, hey, I can't eat this because it's going to be bad for me. This cake's going to give me cancer. It's not. Just enjoy the cake. But this is where we see, this is one of the things that we see universally, I think. And I think years of this has created such a diverse group of trends, people. Like, because obviously myself, like, you know, I'm a vegan, which great, cool. Doesn't mean anything. Just means I eat something different in comparison to someone else. We just have a different, but people like to divide that into like a trend. Whereas I'm just eating the way I want to be. It doesn't mean I need another a label, or it needs to be labeled like, you know, vegan, paleo, like you know, whatever. Like, we're all eating for our best health, and obviously the health scientifically is universal, that we should be eating more, you know, whole grains, fruits, vegetables. But I think this is where things get a bit misconstrued, is that everybody's kind of like, hey, we're going to label this person this, we're going to label this person this, and then there's that diversity between, you know, between people, because of how we eat and how we need to, you know, co-instruct our lives.
Yeah, completely. And I think what it does is it takes people away from the true knowledge of the food itself. So going back to that example, which I think can be helpful, I was helping someone to get more full from their food, just in one session. And she was doing those a recipe box meal, so where they send you the ingredients and, you know, some really nice meals, but they just weren't quite balanced and filling enough. I just suggested just add a few more greens and stir some beans into that thing that you're having. And she got so much more full. Now, she now understands why. That's nothing to do with the fact beans could be labeled as vegan. There's nothing to do with that. You know, there's more fiber in them that's going to keep you full. There's some protein in them as well. She's bulking her meal out with a, you know, relatively lower calorie density food than, say, compared to something like oil. Those are the reasons it's kept her more full. And, you know, we know that it can help reduce risk of things like type 2 diabetes. It is nothing to do with the fact that's a plant or a vegan food. And I think this is the thing, the more knowledge people have of certain foods, they will be able to more comfortably build those into their life on the merit of those foods. Not, oh, well, that sounds like a vegan meal. It's like, well, it might just be a healthy meal. I could give you a plate of Oreos. I mean, that's vegan, but it's not healthy. So, you know, we looking at things just from that lens. And I do think there's some really unhelpful information, like just eat lots of plants. Okay, that can be helpful, but we still need to give that nuance. You need balance on your plate as well. You know, it's not just helpful to say simply do that as your entire diet. You know, everyone needs to understand that balance as well. And that's the thing that I actually find quite universally across people who are struggling. I look at their plates, and there's just things they could add and just reshift a little bit, no matter what dietary preference they are. You know, it's just like a few more greens on there. Actually, you could have had something a bit more tasty on there as well. You know, fry up a bit of plantain to go with that curry or something like that. You know, there's all sorts of things people can add and shift, and that doesn't have to be, oh, I'm vegan or I'm vegetarian or I'm something else. And those small changes in addition, we know that from the gut microbiome, adding in more of those plant-based whole foods will be helpful within that balance on your plate as well.
Yeah, it does become highly restrictive, and everybody's has their own version of highly restrictive. So dependent on the person you ask, like somebody would look at me and be like, hey, he's cut out, you know, animal products. That's so highly restrictive. He's only eating plants. There can't be much diversity because, you know, people are unaware of like the different plant foods that we have. They may only see the 5 pieces of, like, you know, broccoli, green beans and stuff that you see in the supermarket at a storefront, and not realizing that things like, you know, lentils and banana blossom and all these things exist. So somebody would see that and be like, hey, that's restrictive, where everybody's restrictive is going to look so different. And what we need to do is create our own very healthy restrictions, but it's creating it, not creating restriction.
Yeah, I completely agree. One of the biggest things that was my turning point when I was 17 was I can't restrict myself anymore. And, you know, from 17, I had 10 years actually as a non-vegan, and then I've now been about 10 years vegan. And I help people no matter whether they're vegan or not. It's just, I just use evidence-based nutrition and their version of non-restriction. And I think that's really important because, you know, I can look at other people who are vegan and see so much restriction. It's terrifying. Now, that might be, I can never have an ultra processed thing, or I'm never going to have refined sugar, or I'm only going to eat raw things, you know, things like that. That's really restrictive. And equally, I work with people who are never going to be vegan, And I still work with them non-restrictively in the sense that they really want to build in more plant-based whole foods. And some of them actually want to be quite plant-based, others than don't. And I still encourage them, look, if you are not wanting to go vegan, don't. And if you sometimes want to have some dairy cake at a party, or you want to have some meat at the barbecue, like just carry on doing that. And some of them are having meat and fish several times a week anyway. That's so it's got to be their version, but the part that everyone can benefit from, and this is where I want to bring people together a lot more with healthy eating, is we're making all of their meals healthier by adding in these foods that are great, and maybe reducing the butter, the things that we know are not great, we know from the science are not great. Everyone's benefiting from them, and it's really nice to see people come away from those categories and just say, oh, okay, I've just made these changes that are just healthy eating changes. And that's how I like to be seen now, as just a healthy eating coach, because I think it wasn't helpful in many ways, people thinking, oh, you help people who are just plant-based, because then it becomes about a particular diet or restriction, as opposed to, let's just celebrate these foods for what's actually good about them, as opposed to sticking a label on ourselves.
Yeah, it's cultivating those healthier habits for people, no matter what the trend, the dietary pattern is.
Yeah.
It's creating the best version of themselves to make sure that what they're implementing is going to be best for their long-term health. In comparison to, hey, we've jumped on this, and it's been very restrictive, and I've got some short-term health outcomes from it, but hey, that's not going to be long-lasting, and I can't, keep up with this for years and years on end.
Yeah, and that's the sustainability part. It doesn't matter how supposedly healthy something is, if you can't keep up with it. And I've seen people say with the habits, they're coming away from the actual food itself, people thinking it's only healthy if I cook the food at home. So they go, right, the next few months is going to be a write-off because I'm traveling. And again, that kind of mindset, we can pick up healthy things even in an airport. But again, that comes down to education. It may not be perfect, but that doesn't matter. That's the consistency bit. If you're always looking for ultra perfection, well, you better stay at home and never leave your house. If that's what you're sort of hoping for. You do not have to cook every single meal at home in order to be healthy. Some healthy habits would be, all right, I'll put some of this in a Tupperware. And this is where you need certain tools, right? Have you got some decent Tupperware with seals around the edges so that you can stick it in your bag and, it doesn't come undone in your bag and you got curry all over the bag? That's the kind of thing I'm taking out. It's those kinds of habits, or, you don't have time for breakfast or you're leaving the house very early, so you're not hungry at that point. Cool. Just do your oats and chia seeds and fruit, put it in a Tupperware and eat it, whatever it is, when you get to work or on the train. These are just habits that will really, really help you, that will make it easier for you to be consistent without thinking that you have to do Instagrammable food at home all the time, which is just not true.
Is the curry in your bag talking from experience?
It never leaks, but I do. It's the ones where I think, I'm so happy I've got sealed Tupperware. But I have had other things. I've had my morning, porridge, oats and stuff come open in bags from not having proper Tupperware. But now that's something I do. I only buy Tupperware that, has the proper clip down seals. I'm very careful with all of this sort of stuff now, because that's the last thing you want. And this is about having sustainable tools, right? Is that even when it comes to bulk cooking, some people have resisted bulk cooking because they don't have anywhere to put it. They need to clear out the freezer still. They don't have enough Tupperware. I'm like, right, go and buy some. Just go and buy some so you've got it. Have a clear out of the freezer. These are little disciplined things that we can do that make our life easier. And if you want some, if you really want to do some stuff in January that you don't do the rest of the year, that might be clear out the freezer so you've got space to, when you are bulk cooking a chickpea curry or whatever it is, that you've got space to put it in the freezer. That would be an amazing action to do.
One thing that people, I would say, get hung up on is how much money it costs to be healthy. And I can understand it from a point of view if you're going out and, looking for a health coach, and that really undermines mine and yours job right here. However,
don't, Callum, cut that bit.
But people aren't willing to let's say, for instance, work with somebody but are willing to spend, 600, 700 pounds on some kind of supplementation that may be able to help them. Or if they're not going to spend it on a supplementation or a coach to help them, they're not willing to spend it on the healthy foods that could then, help them. It's very much people worry about the overall money.
Yeah, I think there's always nuance to all of this, right? Because we need to spend money on our health, but I think, say, going for like the product side of things, first of all, physical products that, help, and we know this from an Oxford University study as well, and you can see it just going in a regular supermarket. Someone can always sell you something really expensive, by the way. But if you look at, your regular fruit, frozen fruit, legumes, so your beans, your peas, your lentils, all of that kind of stuff, it's some of the cheapest food you can get. Now, if you do things like go for a tin of organic beans, that is when you're going to start going, no, actually, this healthy food is really expensive, because a tin of organic beans is £1.50, maybe £2. A non-organic one is going to be, I don't know, it's like 50p, 60p, that kind of level, right? So, go for that one, because it can be very easy for someone, especially in a quick Instagram reel, to distort your mind and go, this gluten-free bread is £7. This organic tin of beans is £2 or £3. This plant-based burger is £10. It's very easy for someone to skew to the mind. But the things that we all just want to be building more, foods in of that fruit, veg, is actually very, very cost effective, as long as you're not going to Harrods. Someone's always going to find a way of selling it to you more expensive. So those
luxury lentils.
I know. I wonder what they even do to those. But you'll always be able to skew things. Some influencer will always be able to skew it. So you've got those things that are a lot cheaper anyway. So health eating does not have to be expensive. But of course, if you go to some super duper fancy healthy restaurant, of course the dishes are going to be £25-30 there. So that could also skew your view. But the basics do not have to be expensive. And then on the supplement side of things, now, I am actually pro supplements. I think they can be really, really helpful. But again, you need that nuance around them. You do not have to buy the £150 a month special ultra hormone balancing. I will turn into a mermaid and be wonderful forever. I don't know, whatever they promise, all sorts of crazy things. That's the stuff where, you do have to question that a bit more. And there is nothing wrong with talking to your doctor about this as well. If you're confused about sort of, basic supplements, they are not going to recommend the £150 a month one. And the thing is the sustainability of it. So I very much encourage people to go and work with people like, they have to come and work with me, but to go and work with someone who will actually teach them about healthy eating. So whatever you go and learn, whatever you put your money into, you've got to make it sustainable. That goes for absolutely anything. So if that's going to serve you for the rest of your life and teach you really healthy habits so that you can do it by yourself and set you up so you understand how to do that, then that's an investment with that money. Whereas if, you're just got £150 a month coming out your account on something like, I've even seen adverts for fiber supplements as well. Now, of course, you're probably going to get a result with that because most people are deficient in fiber. So they put fiber in their body, they're probably going to feel better, but they're not being told, well, there's fiber in all plants, especially in very high amounts in things like beans and lentils, which are very cheap. Did you really need that fiber supplement, especially the ones that are super, super duper expensive, that you feel, needs to be made by specialists in order for you to get hold of this? That's where my problem is with the money that can feel like it's going down the drain.
Yeah, when it comes to supplements, I feel exactly the same. And I do feel like this with prebiotics and probiotics, where people will spend an extreme amount on these when sauerkraut is £1. Right. And it will give you exactly the same benefits.
Yeah, exactly. You can build in those probiotic foods a few times a week. The kimchi, the sauerkraut. I mean, I get kimchi and sauerkraut that is a bit more expensive than that, but I'm hardly having any of it. I'm having a few forkfuls a few times a week, and then you're focusing on the fiber, the prebiotics. But I think a lot of people are given these supplements or told to go and take these supplements, and they say to me, oh, they've got prebiotics in, and they don't actually know that that's just fiber. And that is my problem. People can go and buy and do whatever they want, but if someone doesn't know that, are you actually being quite deceptive? Are you being a bit deceived that actually, you could just build an actual fiber to your day, which is also very important because you're going to get all the other micronutrients with it. You actually need to eat food to actually feel full. And I think that's the thing, is you're never going to have a pill that solves all your issues. Again, people don't want that for social media. They don't want to hear it's the consistent habits and those things that you put in. There's not going to be one pill that, sorts out your gut health or suddenly makes you the weight you want to be. And, it's preying on people who are maybe confused and think, well, I feel like I need a bit of a magic bullet because nothing else has worked.
I do feel as well if people are looking to, spend, if they have some money to spend, or they are looking to, actually elevate their health, then going for a coach as well is the best option for you. Because although, yes, you may not sort out all your problems, you're going to also have the tools to carry on through your life as well. Like you may with a coach, let's say, for instance, 3 months. Let's go 3 months. It can be longer, it can be shorter. You don't want to be with a coach forever, because that you haven't sorted out any issues that way.
Sure.
However, you being with a coach then gives you the fundamentals. They give you the education. They give you exactly what you need to kind of, when we move away from you, so then you can go out on your own and do this. You have the knowledge to kind of implement everything that you've learned into your life without, being overlooked.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that's also why there's a big reason I don't do meal plans, because I describe them as 21 meals for the week that you're never going to make, and you're going to get angry and tell me, Vanessa, I can't do this. And I go, exactly, that's why I'm not doing it. Someone that can actually help you look at what you're already doing and make very easy tweaks. And it's got to be things you can apply to everywhere. So if someone has, done a ton of coaching, but then the moment that their environment changes just even that tiny bit and everything is like, okay, I'm going back to the beginning, that says you haven't been coached properly. Because actually we need something that is flexible, because that's the thing, there's always going to be something in life, whether it's stress, job change, relationship breakdowns or whatever it is, going on holiday, work gets super busy. We need something that we can also flex with. And if you have these very strict meal plans that don't work, or that actually interfere with your relationships, if you're told you cannot eat anything after this time, and I've met people who sort of said, oh, I'm kind of eating, am I eating too late? Again, so much nuance around that in terms of the health of the food you're having across the day, what your overall health is, what you're doing, what you're eating. So there's not like a fixed rule. But the other thing was, it was the only chance this person had to eat with their partner. And I thought that's also really important for your relationship. So it's got to work in your life as well. And that's the thing, is if you're given very set, strict rules telling you even exactly when you can eat, that's not flexible. It's not going to work. And you are very quickly going to walk away from that and say, well, I did it for a bit. I'll get back on it another time. It's got to fit with your life, relationships, work, traveling, etc. And you've got to know how to flex in and out of it as well. And that's what a health coach should be teaching you.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I think these people come for a reason. And as much as I'd like them to be with me for life, great, that's a great income. However, I don't want that, because that way I haven't taught you anything.
No.
I've kind of held your hand and not really. And it's the same with personal trainers as well. Like, it's very much, hey, like I need the fundamentals to work out how to get in the shape I want. However, if you're still with this, the same personal trainer, like 6 years down the line, have you actually learned anything when you go off by your own? And like, hey, like, I don't know what to do. Like, but you've always had that person. You need the person that's allowing you to step out of your comfort zone, learn, educate them, and then very much like leave at some point.
Yeah, exactly. A terrible business model. I know we need to brainstorm on something else, right? But it's really, really important. I wouldn't want it any other way as well. And, everyone's sort of different. So people after one session with me, when they learn more about, these basic things of balancing the plate, or, helping them reframe what the problem is. If some people think, it's just because I have no willpower at night and I have all these cravings at night, and we just really look at the food for the whole day, and they start learning, okay, I could just build in these more filling meals. That's a basic they can apply then to every single day of their lives. And those are the layers that we want to be building, because they shouldn't just, those are problems we need to teach them to solve themselves. And yes, it's not the best business model at all, but that's not what we're here for. We're not, here to exploit people at all. We're here to make sure they have the happiness and autonomy from themselves. And it's so rewarding to see people just, thrive in that way as well, and actually feel, actually go and find out some of the knowledge themselves, or understand even, right, these are some of the best resources you can go to. Like, we as health coaches don't know everything, of course. So them also knowing, like, these are more the accounts or websites you should be going to if you want to learn more about XYZ. And I actually show them these and say, oh, that's really interesting. I'll start having a look at some of this myself, because people need to be empowered.
So you're not selling a one secret approach.
Oh, maybe tempting, isn't it? Tempting.
Yeah,
no. I've got to eat as well. But that is another thing. Yeah, that, again, it's the sexy thing that brings people in with the adverts. But there really, really isn't. There's no one thing you can do a day and then do nothing else healthy for the rest of the day. But it also doesn't have to be super arduous as well, and I think if you listen to too many podcasts and you hear about all of the daily habits you're meant to have, you'd spend 8 hours just doing the every single thing that apparently I'm meant to do. So now I'm going to cold plunge, then I'm going to be grateful for something, then I'm going then I'm going to stir my water with some magic wand thing or whatever it is. And I mean, look, there's some big red flags and stuff I've just said as well, but it's got to work for you, because there's so many different practices or anything else you can have. You've got to live your life as well, but it is the small basics. Have I gone for a 10-minute walk? Have I built some movement into the day? You don't have to become a gymnast or a yoga model in order to be fit and healthy. You don't have to do an hour class or buy a Peloton bike. That might really help you, by the way, but that's not something you have to do. And I think people think they've failed if they're just doing 5 minutes of something. I've got clients and they think, oh, XYZ or certain exercise isn't for me. And I said, you can just do 5 minutes with a few weights, YouTube is amazing. Type in 5 minute, even if say you've hurt yourself, 5 minute sitting down resistance training. And that will give it to you. And, you can just build that in every now and then. It's not as sexy as watching someone hang upside down from some pull-up bar, doing sit-ups from upside down. I get it. Like, one is more sexy than the other, but the one that's actually going to be more realistic for you is building in that 5 minutes of just, a few weights from a nice video on YouTube. That's also, by the way, free.
Yeah, there is the sexy hustle grind culture, which is, wake up at 5 a.m, go meditate, go cold plunge, go run for 45 minutes, then work on your life, only eat like certain whole foods, nothing else. You've got 30 days to do this. And you're going to come out looking like this, the guy that's promoting it.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, it's the same with like the 75 hards for me as well. Like, it's very much, it's unrealistic standards that not everybody's able to do, not everybody can do, not everybody has the time. People have time restraints, people have kids, people have like jobs. People have jobs, and
but you're also right. And there's something else I just wanted to pick up on that was also the way people look. Now, we all have completely different bodies, and I think that's the other thing is of course there's nothing wrong with wanting to look good, right, and wanting to present well, but I think as well sometimes, and this can also be a red flag, is you can look like me. Is there a way, we can all change our body in certain ways. There is a limit, by the way, there is a limit, and that's where we do get this real body dysmorphia, eating disorders. There are some people's bodies, your body is never going to look like that. No matter how healthy you are, no matter how much weight you lose, you're not going to look like someone else. And okay, you can take your top off in a video if you want, but just be mindful if someone is literally only saying, right, you are now going to look exactly like this, or I look like this, everyone else can look exactly like this. That is really not always true. And, I think that also distorts what healthy means, because the way someone looks does not always equal health at all. And I think we need to remember that. And you could also end up looking, say, similar to that person, but doing it in a way that is very unhealthy, unsustainable, might put you at risk of, for more long-term problems. So I think just being very mindful of this, super, super hot, sexy, maybe ultra skinny or, unrealistic, distorted bodies.
And I think especially when we do look into like the fitness community, like the bodybuilders, for instance, people
Hmm.
strive to get bodybuilders are some of the unhealthiest people I've ever met. Like you want to look like you want to look as muscular and as big as these people. However, it's also an unregulated industry full of steroids. They
Right.
have uneating healthy habits. They have such restrictive diets,
Yeah.
like chicken, rice, and broccoli, and nothing else. They're not the epitome of health, these people. And
No.
then it also reminds me of something I watched a while back of years ago. I tried to, I think when Baywatch came out with Zac Efron, I was like, fuck yeah, I want to look like that. And you try, and then you hear an interview like a year later that it was the worst period of his life because he was
Mm,
trying to look like that. And we have to
yeah.
realize that these things aren't always they're not always like narrow focused.
Yeah.
People don't realize that you have to give up a lot to look like that, or you have to do a certain something or spend all your time to look like that. However, you're taken away from maybe like, time with your family, going out with your friends, going out for a drink, eating an unhealthy meal. And these people are getting paid millions for it. I'm not. So I'm going to enjoy my Wagamamas. And
It's great. Let's all go to Wagamama's. Yeah. Exactly. And the thing is that meal at Wagamama's also is not going to do anything bad to you. It's just a meal. If you eat way over the calories you're burning, you're no longer in any calorie deficit, or you're just eating way too much of it, then fine, it may not be so great for you. But yeah, that is part of life and that enjoyment as well. But I think it's very sad when we've looked back at some of the people we maybe loved when we were younger, and yet that comes out as well, that person says, actually, I was bulimic at that time, or what, you didn't know that about those people that looked so good and all, happy and jumpy on stage or whatever band they were in. And yeah, it doesn't indicate health at all. And I think, most people are just, and I mean this in a great way, just, regular people with, families and lives and fun. And they're not looking to be these Instagram models prancing around. They just want to be healthy and enjoy their lives. And I think you can really change your health outcomes, and you do not have to look like that at all. But I think that's the distorted side of things that makes people do really extreme things, or makes people, I don't, maybe look at someone who is doing some really incredibly healthy things and then say, well, you don't look like a top model. So, well, what has that got to do with it? It's got absolutely nothing to do with it at all. Like you were saying with some of the bodybuilders, they're not actually necessarily healthy at all, but they're trying to present as extremely strong in some way.
yeah, and it's people will take people will take what they see from a 30-second video, and 30-second video does not show someone's entire day, entire life. And one thing that I've avoided doing in the past, and I still haven't ever done one, and I don't think I will, as much as people have asked me in the past, was what do I eat in a day videos. And
I've not done one as well.
like I love, because the thing is, if I'm gonna do a what you eat in a day video, it's probably gonna be the healthiest day that I've ever had.
Oh,
In comparison to an unhealthy day or just a normal day for me. And people only see that 30-second clip of, oh, he's eaten this for breakfast, he's eaten this for lunch, dinner, and maybe had like a healthy snack. I'm not going to show the fact that I went to like a burger joint and,
really?
yes. And yeah, I think people get misconstrued by what people are actually doing, because I see like this model and be like, hey, this person's eating this, like I need to be exactly like them, I need to eat exactly like that. And in some ways that's also restrictive as well, because you're then restricting yourself to try to eat exactly like this person that you've only seen for 30 seconds, because you like the look of them. You start to eat exactly like them, not realizing that they do have a whole entire life, and that every day does not look like that, and it probably never will do.
Yeah, I completely. And I've had similar thoughts where I thought, if I do what I eat in a day, I would just have to caveat it at the start with a ton of things and say, well, this is what I ate on this particular day. And that's the other thing, is that our days are not all the same. And I think that is a huge problem, is this idea that we're meant to be the same every day. And that's where people start feeling guilty, where they go, oh, but I had a meal out, or I went to this party and ate a load of canapes. And It's like, yeah, that's life. Life is lifing, and I think, that's the acknowledgement that's never made in these "what I eat in a day" videos. Is our days can be really, really different, and they should be. Some days you might be more hungry than other days. That could be because you've worked out more. I was saying this before. I get more hungry before my period, as a lot of women do. I ate those wonderful donuts the other day. You know, if I did a "what I eat" in a video, I would put those in the video, but you'd also end up with these. And this is the thing, is dealing with all this nuance as well. And people are so critical on social media, but that's why I think it could be good to do one of those videos of several days of different kinds of eating, to show people, well, it can look really, really different. And, if you show, that's the problem, is if you show, right, I've had these donuts today, and people would say, oh, you're having them every day though. And that's the problem with the "what I eat in a day" videos, is everyone then assumes that's exactly what someone eats every single day. And people should be able to oscillate, and sometimes, they go to a birthday party, have the birthday cake. That's fine. You're not having that every single day. In the same way, those "what I eat in a video" days where everything's super healthy, is like, that is not what you're having every day though at all, is it?
And I think as well, if you did it on the other end of the spectrum and showed your day off from eating, people would be like, oh, the nutrition guy is eating that. I'll be like, oh, well, I can't win either way.
No, I mean, I feel the same. I never call them days off or cheat days, because I genuinely don't have any, in the sense that I literally eat the stuff I want to eat when I want to eat it, because I feel like that's when it feels best and more delicious to me. But what has been amazing, and I try and show this on social media as much as possible when I eat unhealthy things, I love documenting it, to show, like, by the way, just be healthy, you can still eat this stuff, and you don't have to, have a cheat day or anything like that. But it still sometimes shocks people when they see me at an event and I'm there all over the cake stand, and they're like, oh, I won't tell anyone. And I'm like, no, tell everyone. Tell everyone that I love cake. It's one of my favorite things. But it's the perception people have that, that health coaches don't eat these things. And that concept is a bit worrying, because I think, are you therefore following kind of people you think are sort of gurus, and you think they're perfect all the time? Or that they never have a craving for anything. It's just not true. And I think that's the problem as well, is we've got to be realistic. No one has a perfect way of eating. And actually, if you're aspiring to someone because you think they've got a perfect way of eating, you might either be following the wrong person, or you just need to be kind of realistic. That person is just another human. And if they are staying as genuinely healthy as they say, and building it genuinely into their life, then they probably are sometimes eating the chips and the burger and the cake, and that is absolutely fine, and that's part of enjoyment of life.
Absolutely. And I think, it's one of those things where we need to be realistic about everybody, that everybody is not going to be the super healthy person every single day. And if there is that person, that's very, very, like, it's in the 0.1%. It's not going to be consistent throughout every day of their whole entire life, until the day they're born till they die. It's just that would be unattainable. However, there's one thing that you brought up, which was obviously cheat days, and I feel very much the same. As I don't really have a cheat day. If I want something, I will eat that. But there is certain wording around things that people use, whether that be like cheat days, or cheating, or resets, or detoxes, clean eating, strict diet. There's certain wording that I think in human psychology, I guess, work to get people like that. They're zoned in, because they're like, oh wow, this is going to be something. But it's all the same thing, but it's the wording that we have and how we associate with it, which drives this desire to kind of change or jump on a January trend.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, the word, like, cheating, I mean, at what point is cheating a good thing? Name a context in life where we go, I cheated, and someone goes, well done. Like, it's just, it's not. And I think that's the problem with that word. It's like, oh, I've done something bad. I've had a cheat meal. It's like, you've literally just had a meal that you found tasty. You've had a meal that you enjoyed, and it doesn't have to mean anything. And I think that's the problem with those words. But I think the thing is what those words do is they drive people, like you're sort of saying, back to something extreme. Okay, I'll do the reset or the detox, and it, drives them back to something very, very strict, because it's like, I obviously need the strict thing because I've been really bad and I've cheated, kind of thing. And that's a big problem that I think we've got.
Yeah, I think, as you said, yeah, there's not a single time in life when cheating is a great thing. And I've never thought about it like that ever. Because like when I was younger, I fell into like a whole concept of being like, hey, if you work out, you can have a cheat day like once a week or once every 2 weeks. And that it does all stem back, I would say, from the fitness industry, where they are like, cheat days. And I think they do have a lot to answer for when it does come. Like, as much as it's an empowering industry, it's also a disempowering industry as well. Like, there's two ends of the spectrum, and calling things like cheat days, or being like, hey, we need to go on this certain dietary pattern, much like, let's say you're on keto. Please don't do keto.
No, please don't.
Like, I don't know how much time I have to spend talking about telling people not to do keto, but it's more than I'd like to do with my life.
Yeah, there's certain conversations where I'm like, I'm never getting that time back, am I? That's gone forever. And I think that's just another like red flag, is that, and this comes into the restriction, is a diet or a way of eating that cuts out an entire macronutrient, carbohydrates. Why is that healthy, or why is that necessary? Complex carbohydrates are so good for us. And this is where we really need to be looking at things overall. You do not need to cut that out. And you need to be very mindful of, are you getting results because you simply cut calories? And, it's got to be sustainable. And when I hear people say, I'll do this for a bit. I mean, someone said to me that they were on a really strict diet to lose weight, and they would come to me for something more sustainable when they'd lost the weight. And I was like, look, you don't have to see me. And this is, I would love to, let's help you now before you're actually in a worse place. And you might need me for even more time if you wait until you get there. And that's not how things work at all, right? Because if you got there through a completely unsustainable means, it might be that the place you got to might be an unattainable place, and for you to think that you could ever stay at. You don't have to achieve a certain look or goal. And I think that is also a problem, using other people's goals as well, that people are starting from such different places. And I think that needs to be really, really acknowledged. There are some people who might finish a program with me, and the place they've got to might actually even be where someone else might kind of be starting. I see some people who have, they're quite educated on healthy eating. They're doing pretty well, but they want to optimize. That's their goal. And then there are people where they're just learning the basics. And I'm so proud of them by the end of it. And for them, that was a huge achievement. It's so important for their life, for their happiness. They feel more autonomous now with food. It's absolutely fantastic. Or maybe they've come out of diet mentality that maybe not quite there with it being, everything being super healthy, and that's fine. But they've also achieved their goal, and it was realistic to them with where they were starting, because they've got different levels of education, different levels of income. However much people say anyone can do it, that is just, not a helpful thing to say as well, in the sense everyone is in very different situations. And we know, say, with obesity, there's so many factors that come into that, including socioeconomic background as well. And I think you've got to be really sensitive to that. And everyone can have an achievement, and that doesn't have to look the same for everyone.
I think as well that with a lot of people, as you just mentioned, with achievements, that there's a majority of the time an absence of like a long-term vision. There's normally an absence of that. It's very much, hey, I want a quick fix. I want to look like this in like the next like a few months. Whereas what do you want to be like? What do you want to look like in the next year or so, 2 years? Like, what's the long-term goal here? Because that, like, you may feel great, you may lose all that weight within the 2 months that you want if you have gone on like a giant restrictive diet. However, that's not going to be sustainable, so you can't carry that on for the next 2 years. So are we then going to be, should we just start implementing healthier habits now and see progress over time? And also, once again, and that's not sexy. And I think the New Year's resolutions are rooted in like the immediacy of January, but sustainable change requires thinking beyond that single month. and without that long-term vision, that doesn't really include flexibility. It doesn't involve setbacks or like a gradual process. It's so easy to lose direction, and
Yeah.
because the goals are so rigid and they fail to adapt to the predictabilities of life.
Yeah, 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 completely. And I think people also forget like any goal. I mean, look, say you, I don't know, pass an exam. I can get that that's a goal and you might relax a bit after, sort of thing. But when the way I describe the way you want to think about your eating and your habits is, say your goal is to like not smell, right? And you go, I'm going to shower really hard for a week. I'm not going to leave the shower for a week. And no one is going to have showered quite as hard as me for an entire week. All right. When you stop showering, how long before you smell again? Someone once said like 3 hours. I was like, right, that's a different problem. You need to go see right?
That's why you need to see a doctor.
Exactly. It's like, I'm out of my scope now. But what, like a couple of days? Like, let's face it, in a couple of days, once you've spent, had probably, let's face it, quite a terrible week. You spent the whole week in the shower, pretty boring week, spent loads of money on electricity and all that kind of stuff for you to smell again in 2 days. Because you're not doing that thing every day. And your shower doesn't have to take long every day. You need a few tools. You might have your exfoliating gloves and things like, that's a bit fancy. But, whatever it is you do in the shower and that you need, we have different lengths of time in the shower, but you don't need to do it all day, every day. Same with brushing your teeth. You don't brush your teeth all day, every day for long-term dental health. And it's the same with our food. It's boring. Brushing your teeth is not an interesting activity, but it's something that we do every day because we're thinking for the long term. And that's the thing that people don't think about when they come out of these extreme things is there's stuff you now need to do every day that are basic habits that you now don't have the tools for because you've done this really, really extreme thing. And that's how you're going to reach that, later in life point as well, is those really boring everyday, I say boring, the food's lovely, but of course, do people massively enjoy food shopping? Not. I don't meet many people who love it. But you've got to fit that kind of thing in, and that's again, it's the unsexy bit.
It's very much was like I worked with. I spoke with somebody that wanted me to work alongside like a fasting schedule, and I was like, I'm not going to do that, for the reasons that they wanted to go on a fasting schedule. Because as in just cutting out a complete meal. And I'm okay with fasting as long as you're still eating the right amount of calories that you're meant to be having. If you start at that at 12 and finish that at like 9 at night, great. If you're doing it to, cut out a whole entire a meal to just like lower and, cut out calories, then there's better ways of doing that. And obviously it was the latter and I was like, we can lose weight in totally different ways, but it doesn't have to be fasting or intermittent fasting when... Yeah. So I would say I'm all for people doing fasting if they're doing it in the right ways and for the right reasons, and if it works for them, great. So I know sometimes it does work for some people, as in it just feels better on the digestion and stuff like that. Great. However, that's going to be individual per person. Whereas if somebody's doing it just to kind of like, cut out a meal and a half a day to lose weight, that's not the right way to go about it.
No, exactly. And I think as well, this is where the education comes in, is if that person realizes, well, literally what you're doing is just massively cutting your calories, but you're possibly doing it in a way that's not going to be very comfortable, not going to be very sustainable. And if you go back to the basis and foundation of our healthy eating, you're probably not going to wake up ravenous and you're not going to eat at 11 o'clock at night if you're having pretty balanced, healthy meals and habits throughout the day. Like, it's actually going to sort of normalize that, your eating window is not going to be super, super big because you're probably not going to be hungry really late at night. So there's there's lots of other things to look at. And I think this is also the problem that people say, right, I'm just going to do intermittent fasting. Or they say they tried it as a diet. Oh, I tried intermittent fasting. There's so much more to our health and nutrition than just the time you were eating. And intermittent fasting, all it means is just, a window of time you were eating. What someone was eating and doing in that time is going to look wildly different for each person. So it in itself is not a thing that if someone says, I tried it, why didn't it work? So, well, or it did work. So, well, I don't know. I can't see what you were eating in that time, what you were doing. It's open to so many different things, which is why people need still that knowledge of, the balance and variety they can put on their plate, how to make their favorite meals healthy. That's another bit of knowledge people don't have. And also other programs that say, right, this is the exact food you need to eat. I work with people from all around the world as well, which I love, or people from lots of different cultures. Is it showing you how to adapt your food and the things you really love as well? That I love Caribbean food. So, I love helping people make jerk tofu with a healthier sauce and lots of extra veg, or, things like that. There's so many things that you can do within your culture that are really, really healthy, and that's going to look good for you.
I think I saw you doing a jerk something. I think it might have been tofu on your Instagram maybe a month or so back, and it looked so good.
Honestly, I love these sorts of flavors, and I think this is where this is also really important for the sustainability bit, and another kind of red flag thing of, is it boring and do you not enjoy it? Because actually, any food or meal, not saying every meal has to be super healthy, but most things can also be made more healthy. So if you really love constantly super cheesy pasta sauces, well, actually, you can make a healthier one with silken tofu and cashews and nutritional yeast. Doesn't mean you're not going to have can never have the other cheesy one again, but that might be a really nice switch, and you've got the same flavors, you've still got the fattiness coming from the cashews, but you've got more fiber, lower saturated fat, you've still got the pasta, and we're going to add some extra greens to it and some other bits like that. You've just adapted that particular meal. That's really important. And it's still a meal that you really, really love. And I think that's a really important side of things that isn't always looked at. But what's amazing is that's the easiest way of doing things, is actually to help people adapt what they've already got to just be a bit healthy. If you're always putting double cream in your soup, blend in some silken tofu, or use some oat milk, or make it creamy with potatoes or something like that. It's just small tweaks, but you're not having to learn a whole new recipe. And if someone tells you, oh, you need this special bank of recipes, that's also a bit of a red flag. It's like, well, why do I need those? The internet has so many recipes. You do need to know how to sometimes adapt the recipes to be a bit healthy. You need a bit of knowledge to do that, can be really, really helpful. But that's all available to people. Recipes are not the reason people are struggling with their health, because there are billions of them online. It's not a lack of recipe problem.
Yeah, like you're like, I think my mum's house is inundated with recipes. It's just books upon books upon books. It's like, right, exactly. Whatever I can find, I can get. Like it's very easy. But Vanessa, I want to do a juice cleanse in. Can I go blend several fruits and vegetables and just live on juice for the next month?
You need to come and see me. Oh, the juice cleanse thing. I mean, this is also, and do you know what, the nice point about this sort of thing is that when people do these juice cleanses and detoxes, a reason people believe they are doing the right thing is that they do often see results. And you're often going to see results because you're probably cutting out all the cakes and biscuits and all of that kind of stuff. You're going to lose weight because you're having hardly any calories. That person might have been having no fruit or veg before, and suddenly they're having it. So there's all these reasons that they might see benefit. And those people might be the people who end up doing it every January as well, but they're not seeing any long-term benefits. They're not seeing, healthy benefits throughout the rest of the year. And no, so I'm not going to let you do a juice cleanse or fast, Callum. I'll protect you. I'll mark you safe from a juice cleanse.
That is one thing I do see. Like now I live in Ubud. It's very much juice cleanse shops and like juices everywhere, and great. I love a juice, but there's people living on these for there's people living on these for weeks. I'm like, please stop. I was like, please
eat some food and enjoy yourself.
I had somebody actually come back to me and was like, isn't that counterproductive about what you're saying about eat more fruits and veg in your diet? I'm like, no. I'm like, I get what you're saying. That I am saying eat fruit and veg, but blended into a pulp and drunk 3 times a day instead of having any kind of actual food, not the same.
No, exactly. And I think that's where the nuance comes in, is that juices can be great. Juices, smoothies, etc. Obviously, a smoothie has the actual fiber in there, the whole fruit, and a juice takes a lot of the fiber out. they can both be really healthy parts of, a healthy, balanced way of eating. The problem is with anything extreme and without that nuance is that, you get people who just live off fruit. I don't think that's particularly helpful. You're missing out on so much variety, and you're missing out on foods that we know from the science are really, really healthy and good for us. So I don't understand why, that's something, and that's another thing that gets sold, but it also makes people lose a lot of weight, probably because they're really not eating very many calories, etc. It's another short-term thing. But people might say, well, Vanessa, but you're always encouraging people to eat more fruit. That doesn't mean just eat fruit. It's in the variety and the balance that's really, really important. But I know what you mean, that people think, oh, I'll just go and only have that because we know that's a healthy food. No food on its own is going to give you everything you need. I think that's really important to remember. And so if anyone ever says to you, you only need to eat these few things, or this food is the top food in the entire world. Yeah, there are some foods that, I will probably talk about more than others. But if anyone's, again, saying that to you, only drink celery juice or whatever it is that kind of comes out as though it's a miracle. This is another thing, is saying something is literally a miracle cure and will cure a disease, and this one food will do that. Again, that, I'm not saying don't eat that food. It might really, really help you. It might have replaced something else, but always go and look at the actual evidence from reputable sources as well. And no one food is responsible for the cure of all diseases as well. That's another, these claims you've got to be really, really careful about.
Yeah, and I think it's good to preface as well that, like, there is eating just one food, no matter what food it is, although it can be a healthy food. If you are eating that one healthy food and nothing else, it is not healthy.
No,
to be doing that. Like, so you can be eating broccoli all you want. Great, broccoli is healthy, but if you're only eating broccoli and nothing else, you are going to hit, deficiencies in things, because broccoli doesn't have everything that you need. So it is looking for more diversity and more variety in the diet. You'd not just one food. And I do know people that do, sit and, continuously eat just that one food day in, day out. I'm like, that isn't a healthy thing to be doing. We need to be, creating more diversity, no matter what dietary pattern you are. Like, yes, I'd love for you to be eating more, whole plant foods, but if you're just eating one thing, it's not a healthy way to live.
No, it's definitely not. And I think knowing that, though, can be really, really helpful, because if you, I don't know, maybe you're intolerant to something or allergic to something, knowing that does not massively restrict you. I think you touched on this at the beginning and saying that maybe people don't understand the massive variety of food that's actually out there. And what can happen is and it can be really difficult having an allergy. Someone might have an allergy to something, but the more knowledge you have of the wide amount of foods, you can realize actually that doesn't have to mean that makes your life super difficult, or it means you're now super restricted in your diet. I know there's going to be the odd person with huge amounts of allergies where things are a lot more difficult, but for the average person, no, it doesn't have to do that. But you do have to have that knowledge of diversity. And I think understanding that health it's a mix of what you're putting in and not putting in. Because people will say, yeah, but I ate this and this, why didn't I become healthy? It's like, well, you still weren't putting XYZ on your plate. Or people will say, well, I've been on this program that cuts out all sugar and ultra processed food. My question is, yeah, but what went on the plate? That's the bit that we really, really need to look at. And if you have a bit of sugar and ultra processed food sometimes, I'm probably going to have some chocolate after this. Actually, that will be ultra processed. Just in case everyone's wondering, it will be.
You do eat unhealthy sometimes. You're not just this BBC health guru.
No, it just doesn't work at all. But this is the thing, is the majority of stuff is pretty healthy. I don't massively crave it all the time because I'm putting foods in my body that we know help reduce cravings, keep you more full, keep you more satiated. Great. So when I do want that stuff, fine, I can have it.
There is I would say a craze. I wouldn't say it's a craze, but there's a trend of people saying that you shouldn't listen to your doctors at the moment. And I know you feel quite strongly about that. So, and I feel like that there's probably a few people listening to this that probably would fall into that trap of not listening to the doctors. And yes, I get they aren't nutritionists and they're not trained. However, they do have solid advice to give you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And I think again, this is this polarized world that we live in. Again, if you watch certain things on social media and they say they are trying to kill you, or it's like, who's they? That sort of thing. There's this polarization, and we were talking about this before, and before we came on here, like this polarization between the wellness world and pharmaceuticals, for example. And it just does not have to be like that at all. And doctors have knowledge that we don't, and they are trained in a certain way that can be really helpful, and there is nothing wrong with bringing two things together. So if someone is struggling with blood pressure, high blood pressure, yes, of course you can change it with lifestyle, but in that moment they might need medication, and just because they have medication doesn't mean they can't come and work with one of us or someone else to help reduce their blood pressure or help them, lose some weight, eat some more antioxidant rich foods, all of that kind of stuff. It doesn't have to be one or the other. And the other thing is people are not failures because they're on medication. And I think sometimes they can be made to feel that.
They
And
get penalized quite a lot, I feel.
yeah, and it can be life-saving. We've had these huge advancements in the medical world. It's not for nothing, and it's not so people can kill you. It can be really, really important. We were talking about painkillers earlier and saying, take a flipping painkiller when you need it. Of course, lifestyle things. If you're struggling with headaches, are you hydrated enough? Are you relaxed enough? There's all of these things we can still look at with our lifestyle. But I was talking about it with period pains. I'll do as much as I can to be healthy, but sometimes I need a painkiller, and I don't need, we don't need to feel guilty about that. There's nothing wrong with using pharmaceutical interventions at all. But the other thing is on a safety front, is that doctors can really, really help people. It's very important people are discussing their health with doctors. It's very important, by the way, people are going to their doctors if they come to work with someone like you or me, that they go and discuss with their doctor. Oh, by the way, actually, I'm starting to eat more healthily. Can you help me monitor things better? Is there any advice you can give me, doctor? This is really, really important. We can all work together. Is that not one of us has all the knowledge, and actually that person's going to benefit far, far more by having multiple people helping them who are experts in particular areas than people criticizing each other and saying, well, they clearly don't know about XYZ. That's also something to kind of run away from. People saying, don't listen to the doctor, they don't understand anything about your condition. That's just a real red flag.
Yeah, I think it comes down to as well, like there's a lot of misinformation about what people assume doctors do and can't do. And they don't have a ton of nutrition training. Like we know that they get like 7 hours. However, that doesn't take away from the fact that they know how to at least help with certain conditions that may not be availably reversed by food and nutrition. And like people do assume that everything can be solved through just us eating healthier. I'm like, that might not solve someone's stage 3 cancer, which I've seen online, where people be like, hey, eat more whole foods, and yes, it is preventable and it can help reverse of diseases. But telling someone that's a stage 3 cancer that they should just change their diet and it's going to fix it is shitty. They're already going through enough already without you coming along and being like, hey, let's add some more beans into your diet, and it will cure that right up.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, that's the thing is doctors have the knowledge of this sort of thing. And I wish so much that nutrition could solve everything. I really, really do. And it just can't. I think regardless of what you're going through, nutrition is always going to be really, really important. Nutrition and lifestyle, it can change the experience you might have of a particular condition. There might be some people who are going to have lifelong conditions, and, actually making those people feel bad, like you're not doing enough, you've got this wrong. You can't necessarily cure everything. And it really pains me to say that, because I really wish we could, but we can't. But we can do the best that we can as well. And that is why you need to work with, multiple people who know what they're doing. I mean, one of the top things I often put on people's lists with their action plans is, you need to go and see the doctor about that. That's really, really important. And talking to that person about whatever symptoms you're having, making sure you're getting checked about certain things, that you're not going to, I don't know, rogue tests online that may not be effective or have any science behind it. Go and discuss those with your doctor first. for example, and get whatever test you can through your actual doctor. And I think we're really lucky in the UK to have a National Health Service. We're really, really lucky. Please, please phone up your doctor and actually go and see them and discuss things. And they may not have huge amounts of time to see you, but you have the right, like everyone else, to go and see your doctor. And even if you think, well, the thing I'm talking about is, I've had people even say, oh, I feel like the thing I'm talking about is a bit too trivial. It doesn't matter. It is your health, and they are there to help people with any aspect of that. The last thing, in fact, that we want is for people only to reach out to the doctor when things are really bad. Actually, it's actually better for the system that if you're worried about something at the start, in your mental health as well, go and see the doctor.
Yeah, I think that is one big issue, and I've been known to do it in the past, is where you only go to the doctor when something's gone wrong.
Yeah.
Instead of when there may be inklings of things, that you should probably just go get that checked out. But until it gets sometimes too far gone, that's when people are like, hey, I might need to go see something, instead of, when there might be a first initial thought that there may be something going on. They just kind of leave it instead of going and finding an answer, or trying to at least find an answer anyway. And I think people can think they're a bit of a burden on and you're not a burden. It's also they're there for you. You don't have to feel like you're a burden. They may have time restrictions and time limits, but that's also not their fault either. So it's kind of very much, we just kind of have to get what we're given, but hopefully we can progress in that time.
Exactly. And I think that we pay taxes. That's part of our system that we have in the UK, is that you do get to see them and discuss things with them. And your doctors are brilliant at so many things, including diagnosing certain conditions, as well as, people, might have symptoms of something for a really long time and they just kind of ignore it. Go and check, go and find out. It's incredible what can be diagnosed. It's, not always an easy process, but for some things it really is. It can be as simple as you go to the doctors and find out your iron is a bit low, which is, can obviously happen to lots of women, especially, maybe with heavy periods. It can happen to anyone, but just going and making sure you're finding that out. You can actually get those tests for free with your doctor. And that can really help people. Yes, again, there's things we can do with nutrition, but for some people, they might need to take an iron supplement as well. But finding that out can make a huge difference to someone's life. If you're actually feeling a little bit lethargic a lot, there can be so many things that are causing that. But go and get a few things ticked off the list as well, and that's going to make your life so much better.
One thing that you've mentioned quite a lot in the last 10 minutes is periods. And it's one of those things that I think as guys, we kind of underestimate. I know me in the past has, until obviously getting more information in different places, because as a guy you kind of, it's the same as people with when you don't have an allergy, you kind of forget about people with allergy. It's the same with, we know that girls have periods, however we don't always know the feeling of what it's actually like. And I feel like over time I've started to establish this into plans of mine and helping people, but a lot of programs that people do go on don't acknowledge that things like periods exist, that your needs are going to be different, that your iron is going to be different, and how you're feeling and how you want to eat is going to be different. So it's not always going to be a cookie cutter, one size fits all approach.
No, exactly. And for every woman it's different. I mean, for some women are on birth control, and so they're not experiencing that cycle, but women are having different lengths of cycle. They change throughout a woman's life. My cycle is different now to what it was when I was younger. Now I do track my period. I know I'm coming on tomorrow or the next day. Woo, great for Christmas Day. I know that I do track it because I know I feel quite differently across that cycle. And I know I was saying to you, I do eat more at certain points of my cycle. Some women don't always get those same cravings. Women experience things so differently. And that's why everything also has to be really flexible, because everyone's going to experience things slightly differently. I want to do more exercise at certain points of my cycle as well. And so I don't want to be told I have to do the exact same thing every day, but I want the habits every day so that I can also choose. I think that's really, really important. But I think a lot more awareness needs to come around, the cycle. And the fact some women have real problems around their cycles as well. Some women have much more painful periods. Some women have endometriosis. There's so many things that can vary. And I think it's very important that, not only are we thinking, right, what do maybe women go through, but each woman, we can't also assume that every woman has a terrible period as well. And, and actually, if you have very bad period pain, please go and see your doctor. That's not necessarily normal at all. And that's the thing, is that certain things have been very normalized as well. And I think women have been, maybe again felt, oh, is that something I should go to the doctor to? Yes, you absolutely should discuss changes in your cycle, difficulty with your cycle. Please go and do that, and discuss that with your health coach as well. And, it also gives you a good gauge of flexibility for anything else that might change in your life. Nothing is going to be the same every day. But, I do love tracking my cycle. I do love talking about it. I know not everyone, wants to necessarily hear it, but it also even helps me plan my diary. If I know when I might be coming on my period, and I don't always have the best time, it's definitely improved from what I've eaten. And, I know that, nutrition can really, really help our cycle. Can't say it can necessarily cure anything again. But I can also plan ahead a little bit better. I might say, right, I know I get more hungry then. Okay, I'm going to make sure there is more in the freezer, or I know the exact donuts that I love to have just before my period. I'm going to make sure I have them, because that's when I love having them as well. Or I know I'm going to be more tired. I am usually so much more tired on my period. I might actually say to people, if they say, oh, there's a dinner on this day, I'll look at my calendar and I'll say, I might be on day 1 of my period on that day. I may not come. I may just need to rest, or I may be in a slightly different mood, by the way. And I think it's completely okay to kind of discuss that and be flexible towards that. That makes it easier for absolutely everyone.
I think it's good for everybody to realize that these things exist, and it is normal as well. And I think it has become very normalized to just not give a shit. Especially from from a guy's perspective. And I think it's only recently in the last few years, especially myself diving into nutrition, as well as having guests on this podcast that have taught me about, preconception, pregnancy, postpartum, children, everything, that I'm menopause, perimenopause. I'm this is all mind blowing, because I would say it's also to do with lack of education as well, because we don't really get taught that in school. We get the basic, sex education, which is very, very little, and then you don't really get taught how people develop in different ways. So we kind of overlook things like cycles, things like periods, menopause, or whatever, and it's very much, unless you put yourself into a world or try to educate yourself about these things, then you can never really know. But it has become so normalized that we just don't give a shit. Or guys especially. I know that there's women out there as well that, because they don't have it that bad, will kind of demonize people that have it worse and don't believe them. And it's for some reason it's become a weirdly polarizing topic for something that's so natural.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you're also completely right with the sort of lack of sympathy that might come up. Women experience things so differently, and they're actually, don't forget, there's some women who have actual conditions around their reproductive health as well. So everyone's going to experience things in a different way, which is why we all need to be compassionate and flexible. And it's great to talk about it, and I wish there'd been more education on it. I was taught, here's a sanitary towel, here's a tampon. That was kind of what we were taught in school. Or there's maybe narrative around, women are really moody before their periods, or whatever it is. And again, I think that narrative just is so uncompassionate. It's yes, okay, I will be slightly different then to maybe what I've been previously in my cycle when I was ovulating. I do feel more sociable, etc. And actually just being able to acknowledge that yourself, I can actually plan better for myself. I do actually plan going out more during the time, around my ovulation, because I've got, my energy levels are different. I enjoy socializing more. I can socialize at any point, by the way. And this is another thing, is making sure you don't feel enslaved by your cycle as well. You can do anything at any time of your cycle. Let's just be really, really clear about that. I think the narrative went too much either way. You know, I think there were those tampon ads in the past that were like, you can snowboard on your period, you can do this or that. And then it sort of said, and now when I look back at the ad, I'm like, oh, actually, you know, they did say at the end, well, you don't have to, but you could. They were selling a product, fine. And I think, you know, what's important for women to remember is you can do anything at any point of your cycle, and we all feel really differently. But if you do want to take more rest at certain points, you can, and that's completely fine. And if that's, you know, what's sort of feeling good for you and your body, especially if you are experiencing something a bit more like endometriosis maybe, and you are really struggling on your actual period, you know, try and make as much space for yourself. And I think it's more that awareness. You know, some people are not going to have that problem at all and make bounce off the walls on day one of their period. Great, go snowboarding. Other people that may not want to. And I think it's more about having that choice and awareness. We're just not all the same. But, you know, I really love my cycle. I love going through the different points of it. You know, I think it's absolutely great. And I think, you know, women building a great relationship with their bodies and periods not being this, you know, in some countries, they really are this dirty, taboo thing. And again, we really need to come away from that sort of thing as well. It's a completely natural thing, as is menopause, etc. You know, it's not a disease. You know, I saw that advert of, you know, people cheating out of menopause or whatever. You know, it's a perfectly natural thing. And, you know, we want to celebrate our bodies as women.
I think before we round this off, I asked ChatGPT, you know, the overlord of all information, on the best ways to lose weight in 2025, and I got the worst of answers.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna go. I just need a yes or no answer from you on each one, whether we should do them or not.
Oh, okay, go for it.
Whole 30, a 30-day elimination diet where participants cut out sugar, alcohol, grains, legumes, dairy, and processed foods.
No!
Juice cleanses.
Sorry, and I know you just wanted yes or no, but processed foods, tofu's a processed food. Like tomatoes are a processed food. Okay, anyway. Okay, no.
Juice cleanses.
No.
Carnivore diet.
Sorry?
Yeah, juice cleanses, no. Carnivore diet, definitely no.
No nuance needed, no.
Low fat diet. If anybody's watching this or not watching it, please turn to video to see Vanessa's face with every single one of these. I just need a preface as well that all of these are going to be a no. We're not going to promote any of them.
No, I mean, of course, if you're eating, you know, what I'll say is, please don't eat a super high fat diet, but you know, no, we need fats. We need fats. You know, nuts, avocado, peanut butter. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, that one actually from what it says was encouraging to cut out all fat, which I'm like, that also encourages to, you know, take out.
No way.
Well,
but we do need the balance, and yes, people are often on very high fat diets, and of course that is not helpful in itself, but what you've said here is zero fat diet is also a big no.
Also kind of impossible, I think, as well.
This is another thing. It's a no anyway. But yeah, and fat is satiate. You know, it's part of satiating meal.
Raw food diet.
No.
Detox.
Please eat some raw foods within your nutrition, everyone.
Detox teas.
No, but if you want to buy some and just drink them anyway, you can. But don't get the really expensive ones because they're not actually detoxing you. I've
never heard this one, which is the military diet, which is a strict 3-day diet that claims to help lose up to 10 pounds a week by eating very specific low-calorie meals followed by 4 days of normal eating.
No, sounds awful.
It does.
Right, what?
Oh, this one's bad. This one, this was top, which was HCG diet, and I was like, "What's that?" Combines extra calorie restriction as low as 400 calories a day with injections or supplements of human chronic. I can't even say that word. Highly controversial and potentially unsafe. It did say that at the end, at least.
Wow. I mean, it's given the answer for us. Oh my goodness. So basically, starve. You might as well just starve.
Basically,
So,
starve.
no,
Yeah.
no.
And then the last two, cabbage soup diet.
What, are we back in the 80s? That is hilarious. That is, but what? It's broken. ChatGPT is broken. No.
And then, oh wait, no, there was two more. There was parasite cleanse pills.
Oh, it's too much. It's too much. No. And again, if you think you've got a parasite, you need to see your doctor. Do not let someone on an Instagram reel diagnose you that you have parasites.
And then the last two was cotton ball diet.
What is that?
An alarming trend where people eat cotton balls soaked in juice to feel full without calories can lead to intestinal blockages and severe complications.
Wow, I can't believe I had to tell us it leads to severe complications. Someone did, do you know what? Someone told me that when they were younger, that she'd done all these crazy diets, and I think she did talk about some sort of the toilet roll diet or something like where people and like that, yeah. Or I can't believe this has come up for how to lose weight in 2025.
I know this is why I don't. This is why I don't use ChatGPT.
Wow. Or use with massive, ask it to spell check things or help rewrite things, but
Yeah,
don't ask it for health advice. Do not ask it for health advice.
yeah, but also where's it getting the information from as well? It could be getting it from an article from the 80s.
I mean, I think it has. Who's doing? By the way, if you want to have some cabbage soup, you can still have a bit of cabbage soup, but not the cabbage soup diet.
But eat some stuff with it.
But please make it just one small thing out of your entire balanced nutrition.
And the last one was snacking on ice to suppress hunger.
Okay, we're now fully in eating disorder central. Oh my God. Snacking on oh my goodness.
Yeah. These I was like, oh, this is whenever I typed it, I thought it was going to give me at least some kind of decent answer. But what it gave me was the worst of the worst.
Did it give you one have something about balanced eating or filling up on certain foods or overall lifestyle? Was there anything we can salvage?
The only one that seemed to be somewhat was, where's it gone? Fat burning gummies would be the probably most normal one there.
Really?
Like, yeah, there was no just a normal healthy diet. It was just very much, crazy, yeah, fat burning gummies or chews. Extreme.
What's in these fat burning gummies though? What's it?
I don't own any to know, unfortunately.
I'm going to just again say no, everyone, no. But I mean, that is absolutely terrifying.
I'll give you one more from my own brain, which is just eat a healthy, well-balanced diet, and hopefully that one's a yes.
Yes. 10 points. Wow. That is I'm terrified now. I didn't you've shocked me with this because I haven't asked ChatGPT that sort of thing. And what that indicates though is this is possibly what people are going to go and do.
I think it would definitely be a driving factor if people ask for extreme weight loss to ChatGPT. If they're like, hey, how do I lose weight the quickest? And January, if it comes up with these things for everybody, I don't know if it's tailored to me specifically because I do nutrition and it's maybe given me the worst of the worst. I don't know. However, if people are getting these on a regular, then it's scary.
It is really scary. And there's also no nuance around that if ChatGPT should be saying these are horribly unhealthy. They should there's no nuance around it. So like we've just said, you can still have some cabbage soup, you can still have some juice. It's not giving any nuance to these things, which is also why just be careful of the Google search, be careful of the ChatGPT as well. It's not necessarily going to give you the right answer, but no to all of them. Except your last one of just eat balanced,
The normal one that we would promote generally.
exactly, which is not as, it doesn't sound as well, I don't even want to say, none of those sounded sexy, actually. What am I even talking about? They all sounded horrible.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, what we're talking about is not the quick fix, is not the quickly drop 10 pounds in a week jobby. It's the long-term view, which again is not sexy when you've got these programs saying, promising a certain result by the end of January. Yeah, another possible red flag, possible promising certain results by only a month. Careful of that.
However, if you do want sexy, then just come to me or Vanessa.
I mean, look, that that is also true. But if you want an antidote to all of that sort of stuff and the long-term sustainable, delicious, non-restrictive stuff, then yes, we are your people, and however much we love you, we will not keep you forever.
Unfortunately,
I thought, we love you, but no. And I think that, again, that's really, really important. But I miss my clients. I love working with people, and then we have to say goodbye.
so sad. So, Vanessa, where can we find you in the year of 2025?
Oh, so probably the easiest thing, because I might change some of my social handles at some point, is if you just type into pretty much any social media engine, Vanessa Sturman on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, I will come up and you can find me, you can message me. I've got a group on Facebook, which is currently called How to Go Plant-Based, from a sort of old name, but it is basically just a healthy eating group for absolutely anyone. Lovely meals, great advice, additions you can make. You're very welcome to come in there, but you can send me a message on any platform as well and have a chat with me.
And I'm pretty sure we'll probably find you again if we turn on our TVs onto like BBC or somewhere else like
that. Is that what you meant when you said,
our screens
can
again?
You find me? I hope I will be on the screens helping everyone to just eat in a lovely, balanced way and helping tackle some of this ridiculous misinformation that we have about pretend healthy eating. So yes, look at your TV screens and BBC radio, etc. And hopefully I will be there.
Vanessa, it's been beautiful. Thank you so much for being here. I'm grateful for you.
Thank you. I'm very grateful for you as well.